Hi everybody.
Hi, good morning. We are just waiting for a few more people to join in. If you can briefly tell me about, if somebody you could start and let me know what grade your students are in, what grade your children are in. If you have, if you have any a specific requirement, we could probably address that as well. Would someone like to unmute yourself and ask any questions at this point? We will, of course, be having a Q&A session later. I see that we have Vaibhav, Surabhi, Soha. Could you let me know what grade your children are in? Danish, are they able to unmute themselves and ask a question?
Yes, ma'am, they can unmute themselves.
Sure. Vaibhav, are you able to hear me?
So Surbi Arora is in grade 9.
Okay. Um, grade 9 is a great time to actually start your SAT prep, specifically the English section. We usually recommend that students start reading a lot during this age. I mean, the single most, if I had to choose one single thing that we as parents could do with our children to ensure SAT or ACT success is to get them to read. I know students these days are not heavily into reading a lot of heavy books, but even reading small articles with them goes a long way. Sometimes, if you can just pick out some articles from some newspapers and have a discussion about these articles, I think that's the key part where we help them understand how to do critical reading or critical thinking when you read an article, for them to understand that students can have different takeaways. Everyone can have different takeaways from the same article. So having a discussion after reading the article is very important. Um, you can read articles from, it doesn't have to be international newspapers only. I mean, if you look at the Indian newspapers, the Hindu is a very good newspaper. They have well written articles, good use of English. So definitely that's a newspaper where you could pull out articles from. Otherwise, the Asian Wall Street Journal or the New York Times, you can pick out some articles from there. So I think that's a good place to start. All right, so I think we are good enough to let's start with the webinar. Hi, good morning, everyone. Thanks for joining in on a Sunday morning. My name is Guneet, and today we are going to be talking about the SAT and the ACT exams. Um, a little bit about the APs as well. The idea here is to understand a high school student's journey from 9th to 12th grade. And you know how these standardized exams fit into their academic path? So, in this webinar, you will learn the main things that you as students and parents need to plan and prepare for during the college admissions journey as far as standardized test prep is concerned. And then we'll do a little deep dive into these two exams, the SAT and the ACT. And we'll show you how we at ReWiser can help you along with the tools that we have built. Before we get into anything, a little bit about ReWiser. We are a high school learning support company. We work with students worldwide and help them achieve their academic goals. We work with students as early as grade 8 and work with them all the way up until grade 12. We largely help them in two major areas. The first one is test prep, where we help and we coach them for programs like SAT, ACT, APs across various subjects, IELTS. And the second area is academic tutoring, where we provide coaching for students who are in the Cambridge, which is IGCSE, AS&A levels, and the Swiss IB board, right? So the International Baccalaureate across subjects. So this is basic subject tutoring like maths, physics, chem, bio, economics, English, all of that. Now we have been in this space for over 8 years. Actually 9 years now. December we completed 9 years, and we have worked with more than 5,000 plus families over these last years. We have students from about roughly 8 to 10 countries. We're based out of Bangalore in India. Now let's try and understand the undergraduate college admissions journey, you know, in India and abroad, there is a difference. So the US school system is very similar to our state board system or the PU system that we have in India. They have a core curriculum that is defined by the education board, and each state can choose how they conduct the curriculum. So this results in varying levels of expertise in each subject, right? Which makes it very difficult for universities to judge a student's caliber. They don't have a standardized national exam like we do. We have the CBSE or the ICSE, where everyone writes the same paper across the country, right? So when we say I've got 98% in CBSE maths, every college knows what it means or how ready you are. So therefore, the universities in the US needed to even the playing field. They collaborated with two companies, which is namely the College Board, which conducts the SAT, and the ACT.org, which conducts the ACT. Here, they designed these two tests where students could be assessed in English and math. The aim being that every student should know at least this much English and this much math, which would help the universities understand their students' ability to take on a college level course. So how well you score on these tests will determine which courses are you eligible for, right? There are some courses which are easier than the others, so your score is very important here. Now in India, we have very clear cutoff scores. So if you get a 99.9% in your 12th, you get into SRCC. If you get less than that, you don't get in. There are no clear cutoff scores in the US, but they do have indicative scores, right, for various courses in specific universities also. So, for example, if you're planning, so every university, you will see that there is a range of the students who were accepted last year, what kind of SAT scores did they get, or how many APs did the students do for a particular course. And within the university also it differs. So, for example, if you're applying to, say, engineering in Georgia Tech, you might need a particular SAT score. But if you're applying for another course in Georgia Tech, you may need a lesser SAT score, right? So it's a very holistic process also for admissions, and we'll talk a little bit about it. What are the colleges and the universities looking at when they're reviewing your application for admission? So they generally look at four key areas. First of all is your academic scores. So, foreign colleges and universities are really interested in your overall academic performance. In India, colleges are mainly interested in your 12th grade final board exam results, right? International colleges will look at your grades from 9th onwards. So you usually have to submit your transcripts from 9th, 10th, 11th, and your 12th, or you'll be sending in your predicted scores in terms of the US. So and this is a key area. This is the first thing that you're looking at. So if you're planning to apply outside of India, the first thing you have to be on top of is your academic grades, right? They want to see how you've grown. They want to see how you've improved, right? But if your academic scores are not in, you could be getting perfect SAT scores. It's not going to really matter, right? The second thing that they look at would be your standardized test scores, which basically means, in India, we have a different system. We have these competitive exams, which you need to take for admissions to the universities. So if you're applying for engineering, you will take the JEE. If you're applying for medicine, you take NEET. If it's law, then you take CLAT. But that's how it works in India. Now, of course, we have the CUET as well, which is another admission exam that has become very important. But outside of India, it's a bit different. They've got this one standardized test, the SAT or the ACT. You can choose which one you want to take. You don't have to take both, but you don't have to pick one based on your major, right? You can either take the SAT or the ACT. It's a single exam that you need to take. It's irrespective of whether you're planning to study, say, economics or finance, engineering, medicine, biochemistry, whatever you're planning to study, you just take this one exam, right? The other thing that they really pay attention to is your profile. Now, what do we mean by profile? It's basically how you showcase to the college who you are as a person, what is a major area of study that you're interested in, and what have you done in that area which you want to major in outside of school. Does your interest lie only within the subject that you're studying, or are you doing more things with it? You know, let's say, for example, you are keen on computer science as your major. Now, how can you showcase to your college your interest in computer science? Is it that you've only done it in school, or you're doing more with it? Have you gone and created an app that is solving a problem in your environment or in your society? um, have you done some, and there are different ways to show it. You could take internships, you could do, you can get into these coding competitions. But basically what they want to see is your interest in your area of study, where you have done something beyond what the school uh, is teaching you. So that's very important for them. And again, it doesn't all the extracurriculars and all don't need to be specific only to academics. We know of students who've gotten in um, on sports scholarships. Or there's one kid I know who got into Stanford. He was very interested in football, and he got the street children of his area to create a team. He trained them in football and got them to play matches with the football clubs in India. Now, something so above and beyond, what is being done in school. So that makes up your profile. It has to be very real to your interest. It has to be, you cannot fake this. They have admissions officers who go through hundreds of applications every year. So it has to be relevant to what the student is doing, what his interests are, and what has he done beyond. That is, of course, your profile building. Of course, you have the college application process, which would mean multiple things like your, shortlisting your universities, your applications, LORs. But the most important thing here is your application essay, right? So beyond test scores and grades, essays will provide a window into your personality, your passions, your aspirations. They've given you a platform here for you to share your experiences, your challenges, your goals, what shapes you as a person, right? And this also humanizes your application, right? It allows the admissions officers to connect with you on a personal level, right? So this is an opportunity for you to stand out, and make a lasting impression. It also allows you to show your potential contribution to the campus community, right? They're very interested in knowing how your coming to their university is going to be beneficial for them. Uh, and it's a big aspect of college admissions. So we would say, invest time and effort into writing these compelling narratives that do showcase who you authentically are, right? Um, Now let's look at the testing timeline. Now it's very crucial for your academic planning. Your high school years, grade 9 through grade 12 are very important in building your academic profile and preparing for standardized tests. Now let's break this down for you to and keep the key points in mind, right? Like we said, profile building starts early. Start engaging in extracurricular activities, exploring your interests. And I would say in grade 9, establish strong study habits, right? As far as the standardized tests are concerned, you could think of taking the PSAT. It's a preliminary SAT, basically for you to see how ready you are for future exams. It'll help you familiarize yourself with the format, right? And it'll also identify areas of improvement. Um, we have multiple webinars that we do on all of these, so please go ahead and have a look at those. In grade 10, begin serious preparation for your SAT or ACT. Take a diagnostic test to see which exam suits you best, and then of course focus your efforts accordingly. You have the option of taking the PSAT 10 again in grade 10. In fact, College Board is planning to introduce, usually this used to happen in the month of October, fall, but now they are starting this year. They have introduced a spring PSAT as well. So the admissions are open for it, which is going to happen in the month of March, I think. So again, the aim here is for you to understand what is the exam, how do you perform under pressure when you go to an examination center. So that is something that you could perhaps look at. You could also start taking some manageable APs. Now, grade 9 and 10, there are many skill-based APs or your interest-based AP. So if you have an interest in economics, you could do micro or macroeconomics. If you're fond of coding and you're already doing some coding, you could look at doing computer science A. Or if you're interested in psychology, you could think of writing your AP psychology at this point of time, right? But I would say, avoid advanced subjects like AP calculus BC at that stage, because that does require a very strong base, academics, which you will do in your grade 10 and 11. Grade 11 is quite intensive for, testing and scholarship opportunities. So the US citizens should take the PSAT NMSQT to qualify for the National Merit Scholarship. And we'll talk a little bit more about this in detail. Um, in grade 11, ideally, you should complete your SAT or your ACT, whichever one you're planning to take. By the end of grade 11, you should ideally be done with all the attempts here. Most counselors would like to have your SAT scores in place so that they can help plan your college lists in grade 12. AP exams are usually taken when you're in grade 11. For most students, I mean, if you're doing ICSE or CBSE, it would be soon after your 11th grade exams in the month of May. If you're doing Cambridge or IB, it will be at the same time in the month of May as your school exams. So start your prep early. Or plan for your the APs that you wish to take, and if you're planning to send your AP scores with your college application, this exam will need to be taken in the month of May between your 11th and 12th grade, right? So grade 11 is crucial for standardized testing, so plan your study schedule very carefully. Grade 12, I would say, focus on completing your college applications. Having your SAT and ACT scores ready by now is a big advantage. Now, while you can still take your AP exams in grade 12, they are primarily for getting college credits rather than boosting your application, right? So basically, what are the key points? Begin your profile building and test preparation in grade 9. Choose wisely AP subjects that are appropriate for your grade level and your academic readiness. Plan strategically, ensure you complete your SAT and ACT by grade 11, leaving 12th free for college applications and finalizing any last minute details. So, by understanding and planning your testing timeline early on enough, you will make sure that you are well prepared and also strategically positioned for your academic goals, right? Proper planning will help you get rid of any stress, and it'll allow you to present your best self to the prospective colleges, right? Now let's have a look at do a deep dive into we'll look at the SAT and the ACT. So the exam, this is going to be the core for today's webinar. The SAT exam, the SAT and ACT exams, they happen 7 times a year. So if we were to talk about the SAT, I think we have the next one scheduled for March. Then there's another one in May. There's one in June, August, October, November, and December, right? While students are permitted to take the exam multiple times, it's generally advisable not to take more than 2 attempts, maximum 3, right? Now, how do the colleges want you to report these scores? There are varying preferences when it comes to reporting them. Some universities will want the applicants to submit all of the SAT scores that they have, attempts that they have taken, right? Or the ACT attempts. Some will allow you to super score. That means you pick the best of the English score and the best of the math score across all tests that you've taken, and then you submit those. And some universities want you to submit only your best score, right? But in a single test. Now, some universities are test optional. This means that the students can choose to submit their test scores if they feel it strengthens their applications, but they're not required to do so, right? So test optional policies came into play during the pandemic when the tests could not be conducted everywhere easily, right? In test blind universities, standardized test scores such as the SAT and ACT are not considered in the admission process at all. So it basically just means that it's not going to influence the decision-making process for your admissions, right? So universities like the UCs are test blind. And then, of course, you have some universities that mandate that you take either the SAT or the ACT. They will not accept your application without a test score. Universities like these are the most selective universities, like MIT, Yale, Georgia Tech, Dartmouth, Brown, um, even Harvard have now gone test mandatory, right? So the decision to take these exams will depend on the policies of the universities where you're applying. If you don't have a final college list prepared already, it might be a good idea to go ahead and take the SAT or the ACT, because if you try and take it last minute, um, chances are you won't get your potential score, right? And moreover, as an Indian student or an international student, I would always advise you to submit your SAT ACT scores. Of course, that's if you have a good score. The reason being that you are going in, so you are submitting your current scores everywhere, but when you are applying to a particular geography, and if they have a test which they are looking at already, if you've taken that, you've given them another benchmark within their own application status to say that, okay, where do you stand? So it does help if you've taken a SAT or an ACT exam. Okay, so now let's look at the structure of the exam. The test is now a digital exam. You have the flexibility to use your own device. You can bring your laptop with the necessary software downloaded, installed. The College Board conducts the exam on an app called the Blue Book app. And there is a website from where you can download this. It's a very friendly interface. They have a clock, they have all the questions are there for you. You can flag the questions, you can come back to them. It's very easy to navigate, right? The SAT exam is now notably shorter. The exam is now only 2 hours and 15 minutes, right? We'll first talk about the SAT and we'll then go to the ACT. All right, let's have a look at the structure. There are two main sections, English and math, right? And each of these sections, there are two modules each. So in the English section, there are two modules. Each module will have 27 questions. So you're answering a total of 54 questions. And for each of these modules, you will have 32 minutes, right? So it takes you 64 minutes to complete both the sections. Now, the English section, you will get approximately 1.19 minute per question, right? It's a crucial figure, and it'll become more relevant once we discuss the ACT, right? Now, again, for math also, there are two modules. Each module has 22 questions. So you'll be answering a total of 44 questions. For each module, you have 35 minutes. So 22 questions, 35 minutes. You'll have for 44 questions, you'll have about 70 minutes to complete the math section. And you will get approximately 1.59 minutes per question, right? Your scores will range for each of the sections, English and math. You'll get a score between 200 to 800 points, with an overall score between 400 and 1600 points. Now, aiming for a score above 1500 is advisable for those of you who are targeting, top universities. It typically puts you in the 99th percentile, right? Okay, in the SAT reading and writing section, your comprehension skills and your language use, also your writing skills are being put to the test. So what will you see? You will see various passages, academic, literary passages, and you'll be answering questions on these passages for them to gauge your understanding, right? You'll basically have the test segments will include craft and structure. This one focuses on vocabulary and text evaluation. Then you have information and ideas where you interpret various texts and infographics. Expression of ideas is refining written expression and the standard English conventions. These are the basic rules of English grammar usage and punctuation. And these are all multiple choice questions. In the math section, the content can be broadly categorized into four main areas: algebra, where you have linear equations, inequalities, system of equations, problem solving techniques. Then you have problem solving and data analysis, which covers topics related to data interpretation like ratios, rates, proportions, unit rates, all of that. Then you have advanced math, which includes quadratic and exponential equations, you will need to analyze and change equations. Geometry and trigonometry focuses on concepts such as area, volume, lines, angles, triangles, trigonometric functions. Now, the math section on the SAT is not all multiple choice, right? 75% of the questions are multiple choice, and about 25% of the questions, the student is supposed to get an answer and put down the answer that he gets. Now, you need to understand the format in which the answer needs to be put down for them to accept it. But about 25% of questions will have, student produced. The student has to come up with the answer. Another thing to note here is that in the SAT math section, it's heavily weighted towards algebra and problem solving and other mathematical concepts, with only 5 to 7 questions which are from geometry or trigonometry, right? So about 85% is other mathematical concepts, algebra and other mathematical concepts, and about 10 to 15% is geometry trig, right? Again, this is important when we compare it to the ACT. The SAT, the digital SAT, section adaptive. Now, what do we mean by section adaptive? Now, remember we had spoken in each module, like in the English section, say, there are 2 modules, module 1 and module 2. Maths also has module 1 and module 2. Now, everyone gets the same level of difficulty in module 1. How well you do in module 1 determines which version of module 2 you will get. So let's say you do well on module 1. And I'm just taking random numbers here. College Board does not disclose their algorithms. Say you do really well on module 1, you get 16 out of 20. Now you will get a version of module 2, which is more challenging. But that is good, right? Because it is potentially leading you to a higher score range, right? 680 to maybe 800. I'm again random numbers here, but it's taking you to a higher score range. On the other hand, if you score low on module 1, you will get a version of module 2 which is easier, but it limits your score range, right? So say you get only 9 out of 20 in module 1. Now you will get a less challenging version of module 2, but maybe you can score not more than 440 or 500. So even if you get all the questions correct in module 2, you cannot go beyond 560. So, then doing well on module 1 is crucial for maximizing your overall score, right? And again, if you have any questions, you can please put them in the chat box on the right hand side, and I'll take up these questions towards the end in the Q&A session, right? So another aspect to note is that the acceptance of the SAT and ACT score extends beyond the United States. There are several other countries, including Singapore, Canada, Australia, and even India, that recognize SAT and ACT scores. Here are a few of the universities that accept your SAT and ACT scores. Okay, we said we'll talk about the PSAT, right? What is the PSAT? It's a preliminary SAT. That's a shortened version of the SAT exam. It used to be conducted only once in the year. Now, I had mentioned that they've started the spring PSAT as well. Now, the spring PSAT is going to be, so usually you will have PSAT 8, 9, and you have PSAT 10, right? The spring version only has PSAT 10. The fall version will have both the exams, right? Again, you can see which school in your city conducts the PSAT and register there as a private candidate. The next question is, should you even be writing the PSAT? Is it even required? So, students opt for the PSAT for different reasons. Some will do it because certain summer school programs or internships that you're planning to apply for might ask you for your PSAT score for admission, right? I know there are a couple of colleges, if you're applying there for certain workshops, they will need your PSAT score. Others, students might end up taking it to assess where they stand globally today, right? So you can, or what is the exam that you really need to write or prepare for? Putting yourself, taking the exam helps you understand how challenging is it for you? What is it when you're studying? It makes sense for you to study because you've taken an exam and you understand what you need to deliver in the exam, right? Also, if you're a US citizen, definitely taking the PSAT NMS QT in grade 11. So it happens in the October of grade 11, which is very important for you to take because it's a national, it's a qualifying test for the National Merit Scholarship, right? So definitely this scholarship opportunities is specifically for accelerated students. It's held in the October, and if you are a US citizen, you should take it. It opens doors to multiple scholarships. Now, just because you've got a great PSAT and MSQT score does not give you a scholarship. It's a qualifying test. There are a couple of more steps that you need to take, but it gives you an additional scholarship other than whatever you're getting from your colleges, right? So that's important for that. That's the reason why some people will write the PSAT as well. Now, let's have a look at the ACT, right? Now, the ACT is 2 hours and 55 minutes currently. Plus, there is a 40-minute optional essay that you could be looking at. So there are 5 sections. There are a total of 5 sections. So you have English, math, reading, science, and an optional essay component as well. Again, we'll go over each of these sections in detail. What are the questions, timelines, and what are they testing? You get a score out on each of the sections out of between 1 and 36, and then you'll get an average composite score again out of 1 and 36. The essay is scored separately on a scale of 2 to 12, and the score is given separately. Now, let's dive deeper into the different ACT sections, right? The first section is the English section, which is very similar to the grammar section of the SAT. But however, there is a notable difference here. You're allotted only 45 minutes to solve 75 questions, giving you approximately 36 seconds per question. Now, if you remember, the digital SAT gave you 1.19 minutes per question, right? So basically, the ACT questions give you less time, but they are more straightforward and they have a very direct style of questioning. So though you have to solve more questions in a shorter time frame, because they are very direct and straightforward, sometimes some students prefer doing these kind of questions, right? So you really have to be, because you have to be quick in solving these questions. So what you really need to ask yourself is, are you somebody who's okay with doing more questions in less time? Or you don't mind doing complex questions, but you want more time, right? What are they testing in this section? 2 main areas. You have basic usage and mechanics, which is basic grammar, punctuation, sentence structure, and so on. So you must know the rules of the English language and you should be able to implement them correctly also. The other thing which they're checking is your rhetorical skills, your big picture ability to make sure that, a passage has, it's flowing, it has a correct flow, it makes sense, it effectively communicates a point. So while the questions in this section are all multiple choice, they are asking you to do editing a little bit to see which, they'll give you multiple options and they'll ask you to see which one fits best in a particular, to make sure that what the author is trying to say is well streamlined and things like that, right? Then you have the ACT math section where you have 60 minutes to do 60 questions, roughly giving you 1 minute per question. Now, if you remember on the digital SAT, you had 1.59 minutes per question. So in the ACT, there is a significant time reduction by almost 50%, right? What is being tested? 2 broad categories, algebra and geometry trigonometry. But again, there's a notable difference in the content distribution, right? Particularly for geometry and trigonometry, right? Here you have almost 27 to 28 questions, which are from geometry and trigonometry, which is almost 45% of your paper. Whereas on the digital side, if you remember, there were only 7 to 8 questions, 15% of the paper was geometry, trigonometry, right? So the digital side is very algebra heavy. ACT is equally spread out between algebra and geometry, trigonometry, right? So this means if you're someone who's not very comfortable with algebra, you might want to look at the ACT or vice versa. If you're very comfortable with algebra, you might want to stick to the SAT. The third section on the ACT is the reading section. Here, you're given 35 minutes to answer 40 questions, gives you roughly 52 seconds per question. The ACT reading section is very similar to the SAT, testing similar skills within a similar time frame. But there are two major differences here that you need to know about. First, the structure of the passages differs. Now, in the ACT reading section, you will have one long passage followed by 10 questions. And you'll have a total of 4 passages, right? And these passages come from various genres. You'll have uh, prose, fiction, social science, humanities, natural sciences, and all of that. But in the case of SAT, you don't have long passages. They have shorter paragraphs, and you have to analyze these paragraphs within the same time frame. But they have 27 paragraphs that you need to read, right? There are 27. Each question has a separate paragraph attached to it. Some will be 2-3 lines, but some will be good 20, 15, 20 lines as well. Here, one passage, multiple questions, 4 passages in all, right? The second difference is that the digital SAT, the content is very dense. The questions are more intricate, nuanced. They require deeper analysis, critical thinking skills. In comparison, the ACT reading passages and the questions are more straightforward and simpler, right? Now, the fourth section you'll come across is the science section. Many students and parents, will often worry thinking, oh, I'm not good at science, so maybe I shouldn't take the ACT, or I want to pursue STEM courses, so I should take the ACT. So, first of all, let's clear out this misconception. In the ACT science section, you won't be tested on your knowledge of specific scientific concepts. Instead, you're going to read science-based passages and answer questions based on them. It's very similar to reading comprehension, where you're analyzing the passages which are being provided, right? Of course, being familiar with the content is an advantage, but it's not necessary, right? If they're talking about titration and you already know what is titration, you can read faster, it will make more sense. But you have to be careful, because even if you have knowledge from outside, you are not allowed to use that knowledge. You have to answer the questions based on the passages that you have, the information that has been provided to you in the passage, right? So that's an important thing. So it's basically reading comprehension. There are about 6 to 7 passages, and each are followed by about 6 to 7 questions. Again, you'll have 35 questions, 40 questions, 35 minutes, 52 seconds per question. You will have passages from various genres like physics, bio, chem. But like I said, you have to use the information in the given passage to answer. There is more data, more graphs, more tables in the science section here. Again, questions are reasonably straightforward, not very complex, right? The other, we had spoken about the optional essay component. It's scored separately on a score of 2 to 12. You will be given one prompt. You'll have 40 minutes to write your essay. It assesses your ability to analyze complex work. If there's an issue that has been given to you, you are expected to develop a clear perspective and then support your perspective, your idea, with relevant evidence, right? Now, keep in mind, while it is optional, it does provide your colleges with insight into your writing skills and your critical thinking abilities. So I think, yeah, so that's the main reason for writing it. India has a bad rep, to be honest, about sometimes that, there are counselors who will write your essays for you and all of that. So if you've written your ACT essay, it gives them a point of comparison with your college essays. And definitely, if you've chosen, so the US colleges, it really makes a difference if you've chosen something more challenging and more difficult when it was presented to you, and you have chosen that option. That adds a lot to your application as well. Right now, choosing between the SAT and the ACT can seem daunting, but there are factors that you can look at to help you make that decision, right? Firstly, consider your strengths and your weaknesses. Now, the SAT tends to focus more on reasoning and critical thinking skills. The ACT is more direct and a very straightforward style of questioning, right? So that's one thing that you should be looking at. Secondly, think about timing. The SAT gives you more time per question. Sometimes there are students who prefer having that kind of extra time to think through problems. On the other hand, ACT is faster paced, more questions, less time. So if you're good at working quickly and efficiently, ACT might be a better bet for you. Another thing to notice, if you find maths difficult, it might be a better idea to take the ACT, because only 50%, it's only one of four sections, only 25% of your exam is mathematics. On the SAT, 50% of it is math. It's half English, half math. So that can be one of the things that you need to look at. Of course, the SAT is overall shorter. It's 2 hours, 15 minutes. ACT is about 3 hours. And if you're planning to write the optional essay, it's 3 hours plus 20 minutes. Oh, sorry, 40 minutes, right? So basically, evaluate which format plays to your strengths and preferences. We recommend that you take a diagnostic test for both the SAT and the ACT. See which one feels more comfortable, which one gets you better results. Finally, which is the test which is better for you is the one that allows you to showcase your strengths to the colleges, right? Now, keep in mind that the ACT is changing its format starting with September of 2025. So September of this year, the ACT exam is going to become much shorter as well. It's going to become almost 2.5 hours, and you will get different scores. So the science section is going to become optional. The writing section is anyways optional. So they will give you a SAT score. They'll give you a STEM score. For those of you who are applying to STEM courses, you will get a STEM score, which you can send in separately. So if you've not taken, so right now, as of now, the ACT is a single test, which you have to take all the sections. Starting September, September of 2025 is the first exam that's going to be conducted in India internationally. That is going to be the new format, where there are almost 45 questions have been, I think 44 questions have been reduced from the overall total number of questions that you'll be doing. And so the science section, like I mentioned, is going to become optional. For US students, if there's anyone attending the conference here, the webinar here, starting of March, the exam is going to be the new format. For the digital exams, if you're giving the paper exam, it's going to be, September is going to be the first. They're going to allow you to take your paper exams. And from September, it's the first time that you have to take the new format. In India, the paper version has been discontinued already many years ago. So if you're planning to do the ACT, my recommendation is finish your attempts by July, which is the last date which they have given to complete all of that. September onwards, you're going to see the new version. The new version, while it has fewer questions, even the format of the questions is going to be changing. Right now, all of it is multiple choice. They're going to introduce some questions where the student has to come up with their own words in English, word meaning to complete a sentence or something like that. So it is going to be different from what it is now, right? If you have any questions, we are more than happy to answer those questions for you in the Q&A session. The other exam that we talked about, okay, so let's talk about, a little bit about our pedagogy, right? We've divided our program into 4 main phases, right? We begin with the diagnostic test to see how suitable for the SAT and ACT. Now, following this webinar, you will receive an email containing a registration link for the free diagnostic test and the ACT diagnostic test. Please take the test at your convenience, see which one you find more aligned to your personal learning style. Now, these are full-length diagnostic tests. Yeah, right. So, how you respond after you've been sitting down for 2 hours and focusing on a test is very important for you to know. Don't take the shortened versions where you're doing 10, 15 questions and seeing whether this test is good for you or not. These are full-length diagnostic tests. They're free of charge. You can take these tests and you can book a one-on-one consultation with us, and we'll be happy to take you through the report, help you decide which one is better suited for you. Again, this is a free of charge service that we do, right? So how do we kind of what does our training look like? We start with the diagnostic test in phase 0. Then we start with phase 1. We start with live online tutoring classes. Our classes are roughly about 30 to 40 hours. You'll be completing your portions. Each session is for about 2 hours, followed by assignments. And these sessions you can take in groups or one-on-one, depending on which program you feel suits you better. Once we have done the main concept revisions, we move on to phase 2. Here, a student is assigned a dedicated program coordinator. So irrespective of whether you're doing batch or one-on-one, from here on, it becomes one-on-one. We believe that every student has their own learning curve. So you will have a dedicated program coordinator who conducts online meetings with you to, you will be doing section tests. They will assess your areas of strength and weaknesses. And based on this assessment, the mentor designs a personalized plan for you to address your requirements. So if required, you're directed back to classes, remedials are put into place, sometimes even extra one-on-one sessions are given with the faculty. Once you have finished doing your section tests, and these are timed section tests, so in smaller bits you're doing them. When you're ready, you start with phase 3. And here, students focus on full length practice tests. They are timed as per the exam style. And we like students to do at least 10 to 15 mock exams before they go for the first attempt. The mentor will continue to monitor your progress and will keep adjusting your plan according to make sure that there is improvement that happens. All these phases take place on our digital SAT platform, where students have access to comprehensive material and will experience the same style of questioning as in the actual SAT exam, right? Again, our programs offer various modules to cater to different needs. We have full SAT, ACT training programs. Like I'd mentioned, they can be done in batches or one-on-one. Now, looking at your diagnostic test, if we feel a student requires only English or only math programs, they are also available. Again, can be done in batch or one-on-one. For some accelerated students, we also have a self-paced program, where you have lesson videos, self-paced exercises, mock tests. It basically gives you a comprehensive checklist to make sure you haven't missed any important aspect of the test, right? We also have programs where a student can only do mock tests on our digital platform. So, overall, we'll give you a complete customized option to suit your individual requirement. The other exam that we were talking about is the AP exam. Now, the SAT exams will, they are taken to test basic English and basic math. AP is an exam that is specific to a subject. So it's a college level exam that you're taking in your grade 11 to showcase your strength to the colleges in a particular subject. Now, first of all, why would you need to take it? One of the primary reasons students take APs is to stand out in the college application process. Academic performance is a given, right? It's a basic expectation from colleges. Colleges will assume you're already doing well. That's why you're applying for a college course. Now, to stand out, sometimes you need more in your profile, and that's where your AP exams come in. There is fierce competition. It helps you differentiate yourself from the crowd, right? It also helps you, these are college level courses. You can get credits before you go. AP exams, roughly each credit costs in college can cost you anywhere between $1,000 to $1,500. Now, if you've taken, say, 5 exams and you've gotten 5 credit per exams, that's $30,000 or 30 credits that you're going in with when you start your exam. Sometimes moving to a different country can be challenging, so the courses that you need to take are reduced, so you have a easier first semester, giving you the crucial time to settle down, right? Also, AP exams open doors to multiple scholarships and awards. For example, taking and excelling in multiple AP exams can earn you the title of an AP scholar, which strengthens your AP application, right? Some students who end up taking, the AP exam, and this is the more common reason, is to offset a poor academic score. So, for example, you didn't score well in your grade 10 math exam. Taking an AP Calculus BC or taking AP Statistics, this shows to your college that low score was an outlier and you're actually very skilled at mathematics, right? It reduces the negative impact on your college application. Some students take the AP exams, if there's a subject that you haven't taken in your high school, but you're planning to major in it. So, for example, you're a science student, but you're planning to take on economics as your major. Then taking the AP macro microeconomics is helpful. Or if you've not taken up psychology, taking an AP psychology is something that showcases to the colleges that, okay, I have the ability to do well in this particular exam, and hence, it boosts your application. Definitely, if you are an IB or a A-level student who has taken up in your high school, you have taken up those subjects. I don't think you need to take the AP exam for those subjects at least. I mean, you have to have a reason for taking the AP exam. You will get credits. Most colleges will give you credits for the courses that you're doing in 11th and 12th, right? Every college has its own policy, so it's best to kind of check if you need to take. You have to have a reason to take the AP exam. For students who are doing the ICSC and CBSE, the Indian curriculums, it's best to take the AP exams to showcase your proficiency in subjects, because the subjects you're taking in high school might not get you credits. And there are some universities, very few, universities like the Cambridge. When we met with one of their representatives, they said if you want to apply to the University of Cambridge and you're not doing IB and A levels, if you're doing ICSC or CBSE, I mean ISC or CBSE, their minimum requirement is 5 APs if you want to apply for the college for any course, right? So if you're applying to those kind of things, again, multiple reasons for taking APs. Like I'd taken up most of these points. Now, we take the AP programs that we have. We start off with basic brushing up of the subject knowledge. Then we have a unit test for each of the topics. And each student does about 5 to 6 full-length timed mock tests before they write their AP exam. We also have a self-paced online course. These are some of the subjects that we offer for APs. Now, one of the things that that I wanted to talk about is that in the Indian system, right? What we see is that our students end up getting good grades in mathematics. It's reasonably aligned to what we're doing in school. However, English still poses a challenge. What the English, that is, the College Board is testing what you've been reading, how you've been reading over the past 5-6 years. It's very different from the school English that you're doing. And we commonly see that, if the base is not there, students tend not to get great scores in SAT English. So we've started a program called the Base Builder SAT program. This is good for students who are in 8th, 9th, and 10th. It sets the base that you require to take on your SAT test, or when you start doing your SAT program. Now, here we are looking at essential basic English skills, and the program is divided into 3 parts. Vocabulary. To do well on the SAT, you need to be able to have a good vocabulary. So we start off with teaching you how to look at vocabulary and words. See, they're not good. There is no 3,000 words that you can mug up and get ready for the SAT, right? These are tricky words with multiple meanings and very easy words sometimes that you need to know. So we do we address vocabulary. We teach you how to learn vocabulary. When you're reading a passage, how do you identify the words and how do you learn those words, right? Multiple techniques are taught to you. The second is reading comprehension. In these classes, we will be doing one passage. We'll be reading one passage together. Discussion of that passage after you have finished reading it is very important. And that's what we do in class with students. I mean, every reading comprehension passage has a discussion, and we have 4 to 5 questions that we answer in class. We discuss it with the students. Every student puts forward their point of view or what they think is the exam, what they got away from this passage. That is done in class. And of course, a certain amount of basic grammar has also been taught in this, right? So these sessions happen once a week. You can do them anytime from grade 8 to 9. It teaches you how to read, critical reading and critical thinking is one of the key factors that we are looking at. I mean, the SAT has a reasonably comprehensive reading list, and we will be sharing that with you as well at the end of this webinar. If there's one thing that you can do, like I was mentioning in the beginning of the webinar, is read. Read and analyze the reading that you're doing with your students. The critical thinking skills or critical reading skills are very important to do well on the SAT. So we are not saying that the base builder helps you now and you don't need to read it. While you're doing that reading, we are teaching you how to not just skim for content. When you read a piece of, an article or a piece of writing, what do you need to gain from it? How do you go beyond the text? When an author is saying something, what does he mean? What is his purpose of writing? What can we infer from it? That is what is very important to do well on the SAT. And so we are teaching you how to read so that when you read the books that you're supposed to be reading to get ready for college, these are the skills that you need to apply in that reading, and that's what will prepare you for your to do well on your SATs. I'd like to share some of the scores that our students have received on our, the SAT and the ACT scores. The students who have worked with us, the highest score on the SAT has been 1590, average score around 1450. ACT, we have multiple 36s that students work on. AP, of course, I'm very proud to announce that 80% of students got 4 on 5 or 5 on 5. These are some of the scores displayed for you here. This is what our students have to say about the training that they did. Some of our SAT scores. All right. Now I'll start taking the questions that we have here already in the chat box. If you have any questions, please feel free to unmute yourself and ask those questions. All right. Please let me know how many AP exams a student can give in a year and how much scholarship is granted on the AP score. Vivek, it's very specific to the college that you're applying to. There isn't a number. There isn't that if you do so many APs, you get so much scholarship. It's not, the US admission process is not so black and white. They are interested in a lot of other stuff as well, your extracurriculars, your academics, your test prep, your APs. There is no basic number. I mean, there are many students who don't take a single AP and they do get admissions in top colleges as well. There are some colleges that will mandate if you have not done an international curriculum, you need to, if you've taken a domestic curriculum, then you need to write APs, like I mentioned, Cambridge, but very few colleges will ask you to do that. One of the things we need to be careful about is, we have these cousins who are sitting in the US whose kids are doing 8 APs and 15 APs, and you'll have founders saying that, okay, I did 15 APs before I went to Harvard. Please keep in mind that in the US school system, APs are a part of their school curriculum, right? But in India, we are taking APs in addition to a school curriculum, right? So the one thing that I would say is don't take APs at the cost of your academics, right? Academics has a lot more importance. If you are an academically driven student, you are anyways on top of your academics, you can take on APs to supplement your academics. But don't do 5 APs and then mess up your academics. Academics are far more important by your school academics, right? Now in the US, what happens is, if you're an advanced student in mathematics, you will start your honors programs and then you will do AP as the maths that you're doing in school. You're not doing this in addition. So all these conversations about 8 APs and 10 APs, please understand that is the math, or that is the biology, or that is the chemistry that we are doing in school, that they're doing in school. In India, you're going to be doing the biology of your school, giving a board exam in that, and doing AP biology separately, right? So it has to be aligned. There is no particular number that you need to take, right? I hope I answered your question. Also, we do have, WhatsApp groups for SATs, SAT, ACT, and APs. Please follow them. We do keep posting links of various webinars that we do, any new information also to say what are the last dates. For AP, like the registration had closed, but late registration is open again for the APs now. If you're planning to do your AP in May, you can go ahead and register at various, cities. Not every school or every center will not offer you every subject. Please be mindful of which one you are wanting to do, where is it available. If you want any help, you can fill out the form here that we have on the right-hand side in the chat box and write down the information that you require, and someone from our team will get in touch with you with the information as well. Would taking applied math in CBSE in grade 11 and 12 put a child at an advantage or a disadvantage? Okay, applied math, it depends on the course